Welcome to Coffee and Big Questions, brought to you by the Home Team Behavioural Sciences Centre. This is a lighthearted podcast series that breaks down big questions that are on our minds as we venture into the evolving world. Join us as we explore and gain insights from professionals on emerging topics.
Hello, my name is Nicole and this is Stanley. We're both psychologists with the OLP HTBSC team, and this is another episode of Coffee and Big Questions. So today we have with us our Ms Diong Siew Maan to kind of talk through some of the big questions that are on our minds. So a short introduction from yourself.
Hello, I'm Siew Maan, also from the MHA OCP team as well as the HTBSC team.
Okay, yeah, we're very happy to have you with us today. And I think the big question that's on our mind is that actually lately in the news we've been seeing a lot of incidents of violent crimes and rage incidents, and I think this has actually been going on. We've seen it also last year, I think, with some of the incidents of public unrest and where people are actually coming out and seeming to be quite disruptive and stuff. So I think that begs the question as to why do we see an uprise in this? Is it just the media capturing more of it, or are people really suffering from more rage and more anger? Yeah.
I think it happens both ways. Probably the media also catches most of the news, and then people, others are paying more attention to such news. But there are also studies we have done to show that perhaps the COVID situation, which is worldwide, could have fueled some of these strong emotions, relating to people feeling a little bit more anxious about the situation surrounding them, surrounding their jobs, the environment around them. They may be also frustrated with things that are happening which is beyond their control. COVID-19 is beyond their control. The other one is probably a lot of information has also been going around, what to do, the type of new variants that is coming, and what are some of the self-protection measures and border closure, which means lesser opportunities to move around. I think all this may have impact on people in general, and perhaps under such a situations, people may tend to look a little bit more inward, like focus on themselves. What can I do for myself? What can I do for my family? How can I protect myself? And as a result, conflicts with other people can happen because we may not spend as much time due to our own emotions, our own frustrations, or because of the social distancing, that we may not engage so much. And failure to do so, we don't really understand. We don't really seek out to understand, to hear people, or to make sense of how things are going, and we jump into conclusions. Sometimes emotions spark. We may feel angry over little incidents.
Yeah. Thanks so much. So we've kind of covered that broad strokes of where we are at and what is the current climate. I think maybe we can zoom in a bit more into the individual level, right? So maybe if I could ask a lighthearted question, is there anything in particular that gets you particularly angry or fired up? You could think of things like pet peeves. I mean, not too long, maybe just one or two.
Actually, a lot. Anything can get me, I was just thinking maybe somebody jump queue, you were like that kind, and I'm quite transparent, so you can see my facial expressions, like the frustration, but this gets into me, so sometimes I try to brush it off. Sometimes I really get very angry or upset, and I will talk to family, friends, and talking through it helps sometimes, and brushing it off, and say, okay, I have much better things to do than to deal with people like that. Okay, it also helps.
Right.
Redirect our focus. Yeah.
What about yourself? I redirect you. Do you also have any things to share?
Learning fast.
Yeah.
I think for myself, I'm not a fan of. I tend to plan my things out, or like my days out quite promptly. So I might have a plan for what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to do this. So I think that when that plan gets disrupted by something last minute, then I will tend to feel very frustrated. Like now I have to delay some of my plans, or I can't even do some of them. And that really frustrates me. But I think along the years, I have learned to, I guess, let go and live life. I think especially in times like this where things are so uncertain and things are always changing. You can plan as much as you want, but sometimes there may be things that just don't work out the way you plan. Yeah, and I think it's about accepting that reality and coming to terms with it lah. So I'm still trying. It still frustrates me, but it's gotten better over time. Yeah.
I think the frustrations may be there, but we don't have to act on our frustrations. Right? We can do other things or spend our mind on other things, and that diverts the anger or the frustrations. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me, in those situations, rather than just being frustrated, I will start to think, okay, so what now? What's my next step? How can I change my plans to fit in this new addition or this thing, to turn it into, I guess, turning that crisis into opportunity in a sense.
Yeah, so actually this brings me to the next question as to, when we have such strong emotions, sometimes it's, as you mentioned before, a bit, we can't really control them. They just come. And maybe I want to ask, how can we best then deal with the emotions as they come, especially if they are very, very strong? Yeah. Not sure if you
I think sometimes we may overreact, right, with some of our emotions. But I think every emotions is a personal experience. It's part of us. And some of us may be more prone to experience frustrations. Some of us may be happiness. We tend to, or we take comfort in little things. So there are different ways that people experience some of this, and these are very personal and unique. But I think because it is so unique, each experience is important, and it tells a little bit about our understanding of the world. How do we interact, and what does it mean? And emotions are something that come very naturally to us. So don't discount it, because, like I mentioned, it is our lived experience in that sense. It's personal. So understand what is it, why does it come, and what is the sensing we get from it. What role does this emotion play? For instance, that you mentioned, when you feel frustrated, it is because you value time, and you now know that, okay, this is the reason behind. So I would say roll with it. When your emotions come, roll with it, accept it, try to understand what's going on, and make sense of it. Because sometimes you learn about yourself more from trying to interpret it. Okay, but however, I must caution that it seems easier said than done. So there are a little bit of patience and a little bit of deliberation over this act is important. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, building on to what you say, I think sometimes when we are already in a heightened state of, let's say, anger, or in a heightened state of emotion, it clouds our cognitive process. Yes. So it's really hard to think and to even want to sit with our emotions. Yeah, so I'm wondering if you have any quick tips on, how you might be able to bring down those emotions to just to regulate in the moment itself.
Okay. For me, okay,
just
start with my own personal experience. So there are some indicators when you feel strongly about something, especially if it's anger. You may feel that your face getting warmer, your shoulders getting tense, and your fist kind of like tightening. I think those are strong indicators to me that, okay, I'm not in my best moment, and something I'm going to flare up any time, that kind. Then I think those are the moments when need to cool myself down, recognize those symptoms. What I usually find it helpful would be to do a few deep breaths and move away at the same time. If I do deep breathing and not move away, it won't help. But if I do deep breathing and quickly stay away or divert my attention from the source that makes me angry, it helps a lot more. And I don't want to get into a confrontation. So moving away, give me a bit of time to process the information, what is going on, and calm me down. And with some time, as time goes by, some of these indicators, the strong reactions in the that I feel in my body will just go away. And it helps, because then the anger, the frustrations will also move away as well.
Yeah, I think I find it very helpful, the 2 steps of identifying first and then taking the immediate steps like deep breathing and diverting attention just to cool yourself down. Yeah, I found that two simple tips that we can take note.
Simple and
simple.
Effective.
Yeah,
Yes.
simple.
I was going back to what you previously said about making sense of what you are feeling. It kind of reminded me of this experience that I had when I was in uni. So basically, I had a dance practice. Just the captains talking to us about how they're hoping that we are able to do better, improve on ourselves, work harder, that kind of thing. Kind of like a pep talk. At that point, I also said some words to kind of like motivate everyone. And after that, I found myself feeling a mix of anger and sadness and frustration, but I wasn't sure why. Yeah, and subsequently I called my friend and I talked to them about it and talked through what could have been a possible cause. And then I realized perhaps the cause of it was because it was kind of like my final year. So that was kind of like my last time to dance, to perform. Yeah, so that frustration was not really because of my juniors, but rather because it's kind of like I'm graduating and those kind of feelings, and that is causing me to feel those strong emotions. It was kind of like an epiphany, like, oh, so that's why I feel this way, and understanding what caused me to feel that way helped me to manage it better.
And you probably have a new discovery on your commitment to this group, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like you're quite insightful as a person and you're able to process your feeling quite timely.
I like to think so.
Actually, I think it's an ability. Not a lot of, or maybe I should just qualify, not say a lot of people. I think it takes a little bit of practice and it takes a little bit of patience and awareness, the insights to really identify and even be aware of some of those emotions, because there are times when we are so busy with things, that all these emotions may just pass by, and without us paying attention to why are we feeling it this way.
Yeah. So then actually that brings me to the question of what can I as a friend do to help someone else, like my friend, to regulate, or when they are feeling strong emotions, like maybe they're angry or frustrated. What can I do to help them?
I see. Yeah. What did your friend do to help you then?
Good question.
I think it was really listening. Yeah, I think listening really helped, because it was more of kind of a self-reflection of sorts. So I went through, the possible causes. Then my friend also suggested some alternatives, and then we kind of went through, kind of like strike off those that are not possible. Yeah, so I think the listening really helped, and not judging me, I guess. Yeah.
I think you felt supported, right?
Yeah.
And you felt that your feelings were validated. It's not any random feelings, and somebody to process it with you actually helped. Yeah.
I think something that I've learned along the way also, through some of the courses, right, is that sometimes it's not just about offering the right answers, but it's really asking the right questions. So I think one very simple way to help maybe a friend in need, or if they are in this state of high emotions, is, I guess, helping them identify, actually labeling what are the key emotions that you're feeling. Because sometimes you feel a flurry of them, not too sure exactly what you're feeling. Yeah. So you could ask, maybe give me like what are you feeling? Then that person has a list, and from that list maybe you get a better sensing of these are the more prominent ones.
Totally agree with you. And then when you know more about your emotions, is you identify different types of it. You find that your range of experiences actually widen. Right? You're not limited to just sadness, anger, happiness, but you could have disappointment, you could have contentment. You need not be very happy, but you're just contented. Or there may be some sadness with loss, sadness with disappointment. And I think it makes your life more varied, and your ability to relate to people even much better and more in-depth, because now you're able to appreciate other people's emotions, perhaps slowly, bit by bit as well, in addition to appreciating your own.
If I could maybe ask a similar question, I think sometimes when we experience these high emotions like frustration and anger, I feel like they simmer down, but then they give us a better insight into actually a more underlying reason. So from what I've heard, I could be wrong, but from the anger and frustration, it was actually a bit more of disappointment and like fear that it wouldn't happen well.
Now that you mention it.
You know that I mentioned it, right? So
So
there's,
reliving it.
Could be, yeah.
it's like sometimes these strong emotions, but they could be signs of something a bit more inherent, like disappointment, and that gives us a bit better insight into actually, can I do anything about this disappointment? Can I act on resolving it? Then that might be a more actionable way forward of sorts. Yeah.
And some of this would be more proactive and positive actions, because then you proactively deal with those events that you recognize as important, so that there will be no further regrets down the road. So it helps in the overall awareness, well-being, and perhaps to some extent goal attainment as well.
Yeah, thanks. So I think we were talking about how we can spot signs in others and help them along. I think maybe as a rounding question, we work with frontliners and law enforcement officers. I think sometimes they themselves also encounter stakeholders or others that might also display strong emotions such as anger and frustration. And I'm wondering if you have any quick tips for audiences to kind of like tap on in managing these emotions in others.
I must qualify that, a lot of our frontliners, our police officers, firefighters, or even paramedics, they are actually very professional, in the ability to carry out their duties. Unfortunately, I think they deal with very difficult situations, very challenging, people in crisis or people who need help. And that's also where emotions are very intense from the complainants, members of public, or even from the victims. So I think that's a very challenging one. So I thought most of the frontliners that I have come across or worked with, they're very focused. They know what is their mission. Why are they there? If they are responding to a call, they're there to perhaps put out a fire or to respond to a victim of crime. So they are very focused, and they know that they are there to help and support or to mitigate the situation. So understanding the mission is important. Why are you there in the first place? And then have certain expectations, what you're going to see or what kind of emotions that you're going to expect. So families may be angry, families may be worried. So do expect some of these emotions that may come from the people around. And then when they go in, have the mindset that the emotions are sometimes not targeted at them, but targeted at the situation where the victims or the members of public are in. And I think generally this should be fine. However, I would also add that if there are opportunities for them to go back to station during their downtime, if they have the time, reflect a little bit, and if there are outlets where they can talk through it with their colleagues, if this could be done, it would be even better, because then you let it go, you talk about it, you share it with somebody, and who knows, by sharing it, it may also help another colleague who may experience the same kind of emotions, perhaps from another incident. So there is cross-sharing. It helps. Sorry, a little bit long. You asked me for one tip. I went out quite a bit sharing.
Yeah, thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah.
That concludes the end of today's episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time. Like, subscribe.
Follow.
We hope that you have enjoyed this episode of Coffee and Big Questions. Stay tuned for the next one. Take care.